In today's video, we're taking a look at SQZ Biotech. The company was founded in 2013, is headquartered in Massachusetts, USA, and has at the end of May a market capitalization of $364 million. SQZ Biotech are working on cell therapies that are aimed at patients with cancer, infectious diseases, and other serious conditions. They have developed an interesting technology in order to modify those cells, and the stock price has come down quite significantly, which could make it potentially interesting for new investors to jump on board. Although I have a PhD in biomedical engineering and over 15 years of working experience in the healthcare industry, I do not intend to give you investment advice. Please do your own research before making any investments. You are watching Health Wealth. If you're new to this channel, welcome. If you're not, nice to have you back. SQZ Biotechnologies trade on the Nasdaq under the ticker symbol SQZ and went public in November of 2020 with an initial price of $13.25. And you can see that the stock price went up quite significantly to just shy of $35. But since then have continuously come back down, and right now you can have SQZ Biotech stock again sort of at the entry price of just above $13. So in this video we'll take a look at their technology as well as their clinical pipeline in order to help me to make the right decision and to decide whether this could potentially be a stock that might be interesting for your portfolio. In a previous video, which I'm linking up here, and you'll find it also in the description below, I have explained that there are various different methods to deliver CRISPR-Cas components into cells. And the technology that SQZ Biotech have developed falls into the physically mediated carrier methods. Irrespective whether it's a CRISPR-Cas components to be delivered into a cell or any other larger molecules, we can make the following generalized statements. The smaller a molecule or compound to be delivered into a cell, generally the easier this task is. All cells have membranes which protect them from incoming external substances, and it is the challenge of biotech in order to modify those cell membranes or enable the components that we want to deliver to the cells to be able to pass across the cell membrane. The novel method developed by SQZ Biotech is in fact to mechanically deform the cells as they are forced through a microfluidic chip, which then temporarily opens up the cell membrane and allows essentially the flowing material, that is the compounds to be delivered into the cells that flow through the same microfluidic chip, to then diffuse and enter into the cell before afterwards the cell membrane basically closes those temporarily opened gaps again. SQZ Biotech used this approach to deliver cell-modifying agents into the cells to facilitate 3 different programs. And these clinical programs are their Antigen Presenting Cell Platform, the Activating Antigen Carrier, and the Tolerizing Antigen Carrier Platform. So let's take a quick look what they are doing in their Antigen Presenting Cell Platform. In this treatment approach, autologous immune cells, that means the patient's own cells, are being modified through the SQZ technology in order to provide antigen-generating immune cells. These are then re-administered or injected back into the patients, where they continue to produce antigens, which then prime T-cells for a very specific purpose, such as identifying and destroying specific cancers in the body through the own action of the immune system. SQZ Biotech are also expanding upon these capabilities by adding multiple messenger RNA components into the immune cells, which then help to prime the immune system and specifically T cells in order to target even more sites. There is currently a cancer phase 1 clinical trial ongoing in collaboration with their partner Roche. This clinical trial is an open-label, multi-center dose escalation and dose expansion study of SQZ Biotech's primary compound. The study started in January of 2020, and they plan to enroll 200 patients who have HPV-related solid tumors. This study is estimated to be completed by November of 2022. So let's then switch and look at their activating antigen carrier program. In this program, patients' own red blood cells are squeezed with target-specific antigens and adjuvants in order to create aged-looking blood cells that then act as activating antigen carriers. When these modified red blood cells are reintroduced into the patient, they are engulfed and consumed actually by antigen presenting cells. And this is ultimately how the cargo of these so-called Trojan horses are delivered. Now the antigen presenting cells help to prime the T cells in order to help them basically identify tumors or any other diseases, thereby enabling the patient's own immune system to attack a cancer. So let's now cover the third program for tolerizing antigen carriers. TACs are basically used in order to downregulate an overactive immune system, and thereby it can address some of the autoimmune diseases that lead to the destruction of own biological tissues. The treatment approach here is again very similar to what we have just seen previously. The patient's own red blood cells are squeezed with antigens in order to make and generate the so-called TACs. Once these modified cells are again introduced into the patient, they are consumed by antigen-presenting cells, which in turn then mediate the response of T cells. And in this way, the T cells learn, so to speak, which pathogens or tissues no longer to attack. Thereby, the immune system is turned down. So let's take a look at their clinical pipeline. We see that in their APC group, they have activities for 3 different oncology applications. And likewise, in the AAC group, they also have 3 applications in oncology. We have looked at clinicaltrials.gov and saw their phase 1 clinical trial for HPV solid tumors. We can also see that a new phase 1 clinical study was just recently added to clinicaltrials.gov. This is also for the treatment of HPV solid tumors and involves their activating antigen carrier systems. As part of this particular study, 72 patients are planned to be recruited, and the study is slated to start on June the 1st of 2021, and the completion is scheduled for April 15 in 2024. So, as of June of 2021, there should be 2 active phase 1 clinical studies. The 9 other remaining programs spread across their 3 different treatment approaches are all still remaining in the preclinical phase. In a May 19, 2021 press release, they talk about the data that they're planning to present about their phase 1 clinical trial at the American Society of Clinical Oncology. Some of the highlights taken from this press release indicate that a small number of patients with very advanced cancer tolerated the treatment very well at all tested levels, and, most importantly, demonstrated also that the immune system was upregulated in order to fight the cancer. They also confirmed that they are able to produce and manufacture the investigational therapy at scale. This is something that certainly is very important going forward. The data being presented at the oncology meeting will include 3 of the 4 planned monotherapy dose-escalating patient cohorts. Currently, the treatment of the highest dose-escalating patient cohort is still ongoing. The primary outcome of this ongoing study is to measure the safety and tolerability, as well as the definition of the recommended dose for the phase 2 clinical trial to be planned afterwards. And the secondary outcomes from this study are the measurement of the anti-tumor activity, as well as the feasibility for manufacturing at large scale this treatment. And I do want to emphasize the point about manufacturing. It is quite remarkable that because these are autologous cells, meaning that cells first have to be harvested from the patient and then being treated through the SQZ Biotechnology's proprietary process, it is remarkable that the produced batches basically were available in less than 24 hours, and that the investigational doses were released and available for the administration approximately within 1 week's time from the time that patient cells were first initially obtained. Of course, it is one thing being able to produce a clinical trial supply size and a completely different story scaling up for a large-scale manufacturing. But of course, SQZ Biotech have ample time to sort out how to scale up their production when they become actually commercial in many years' time. So let's wrap up with two highlights from their Q1 2021 earnings report. The good news is that they have announced that their AAC treatment, or the IND for HPV plus tumors, was approved and cleared by the US FDA. And they have cash equivalents of 204.9 million as of March 31 of this year. And they believe that this is sufficient to cover the operating expenses and capital expenditure requirements all the way through the first half of 2023. So this will take them, the most part, through their phase 1 clinical trial activities. So now, the most important question you may be wondering. Would I be willing to invest in SQZ Biotech at this stage? And remember, I am not giving you investment advice, I'm only sharing my personal opinion. And in my opinion, I think this is a very interesting technology. However, at this stage, personally, I will not consider investing quite yet because I definitely would like to learn more about the phase 1 clinical trial outcomes and also follow up on phase 2. If interim data in phase 2 clinical trials remain to look very promising, I may consider opening a position in this company, but this undoubtedly will still be in a few years' time. If you liked this video and found it useful for your personal investment research, please consider liking the video and subscribing to HealthWealth.